Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to the biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And a man that everybody still loves now more than ever is Elvis Presley. There's a new show on the road through 2018 called This Is Elvis. This is his comeback 1968 special, which became the musical event of the decade. And it stars Steve Michaels, who is, let's face it, one of the best Elvis impersonators in the world. How are you, Steve?
Very good, thank you.
Well, people seem to find you delicious to watch. That's the first thing, isn't it? I mean, Elvis was a sex symbol, and without that, it ain't going to work.
You know what? It's you have to have a little bit of everything, of course, and if that's what people are saying, then my goodness, I'll take it.
Of course, beyond everything else, there's the iconic image, which of course you've mastered, but the voice has to be there. I wonder what strain is on you. I've been a big fan of Elvis, and from time to time at karaoke, I'll try the odd Elvis number, and they're impossible, aren't they? They're really big, if not operatic in places.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course, Elvis's voice changed so much over the course of his lifetime, and the part that we're focusing on, This Is Elvis focuses on, of course, is that 68 comeback special. His voice had matured, completely changed, and it's just emulating a different era, as well as our show This Is Elvis also spotlights Elvis in Las Vegas, whereas he had yet another voice all to his own, and we do our best, or I do my best, to emulate the sound from both eras.
There's nobody of that legend left now, is there? It was extraordinary, his popularity, his fame, and the legend that he's left us with.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't agree with you more. He left us way far too early. He was such a young man, only 42 years old. And because he left us so early and everybody loved him so much, we just couldn't let him go. And, I often wonder, and I hope that his star would burn just as bright. But if he lived to 85 years old, my goodness, I wonder what his legacy would have become then.
The best Elvis song ever was If I Can Dream. You're going to agree with me, aren't you, Steve?
You know what? I will agree with you, because the message behind the song is incredible, but how they also got to that, like the Colonel wanted the 68 comeback special to be a Christmas show. And of course, everybody, including Steve Binder, the director, thought this was a horrible idea. The song was supposed to end with a song that Elvis recorded. I believe it was a Gene Pitney song called I Believe. And then, of course, they thought that this is not going to work. The writer of If I Can Dream went home, penned it. The next day, Elvis heard it, and against the wishes of the Colonel, said, "This is the way it's going to be." And there we go. There's history, and it is such a beautiful song.
What's interesting, the vocal from Elvis isn't perfect, is it? I wonder whether he was in a good place when he recorded it, because it's a very raw, if not the most raw vocal I think he ever recorded. It's extraordinary.
Yes, well, and that's he was curled up in the fetal position on the studio floor singing that song, and it's been documented, and that is and that's exactly where I guess he just felt he wanted this to be his message song for the world, and it definitely was. It captivated so many people, and my gosh, 50 years later.
Incredible. Why do I get a bit sad whenever I talk or think about Elvis? It was so sad towards the end, and when I hear Priscilla talk now, it was a tragic story, wasn't it? A man who had everything and nothing.
Well, you know what? Yes. Again, my sentiments are exactly, because I think with Elvis, he was the first. He was the first teen idol. He was the first triple threat. He was a rock star, and then he became a movie star, and then he became a rock star, and then he got caught up in everything that was, sadly say, the uppers and the downers and the, anything that was going to put him to sleep, wake him up. And he was the first to experience all of it, and then in excess. And then, unfortunately, I guess he was one of the first ones to really really just sort of suffer from celebrity, and it was just very, very, it was very, very sad. The side thing with it comes to our show, This Is Elvis. We're celebrating 2 exciting times of his life. We all know how the story ends, but we're telling a story that falls directly in between those events. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just interviewed Engelbert Humperdinck about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he told the great story of how they became friends and how Elvis came to see him and asked him if he could come back and talk to him after the show. I mean, can you imagine Elvis Presley asking to see your show and asking to meet you after it? Incredible. There'll never be another generation of star like that.
No, and and I believe he did that with Tom Jones as well, because they too met in Vegas, and there's a very famous pictures of the 2 of them. Elvis goes on to quote himself, jokingly introducing himself as Engelbert Humperdinck on many of the recordings. So you can see how they were just all great performers, and Elvis, as in life, never stopped learning. And so he learned from all these other guys. And in fact, now I could be mistaken, but Tom Jones was a dramatic actor, performer, but he did a lot of movement with his arms. And I believe it was the fact that, again, Tom Jones had said to Elvis Presley, if you use your arms, you're not going to tire yourself out. Now, I do hope that I'm telling the truth,
right.
But I believe I am. I believe my source and what I've read is correct. But anyway, yeah.
And Engelbert claims that Elvis nicked his sideburns idea. He'd got the sideburns before Elvis. If that's true, that's the greatest story in showbiz ever, isn't it?
It could be, yes, it could be, especially the very big pork chop sideburns.
That's right.
That's for sure. Yes.
Let's talk about you a minute, because you chose this vocation really, and it's changed your life, and you've certainly become one of the best at it. As I mentioned earlier, an Elvis impersonator done badly can be one of the most ridiculous things and the biggest waste of your evening, but when it's done great, my God, it can be wonderful. And I guess it's down to the vocal precision, and you have that. I've watched videos of you all over the world doing what you do, and you've really mastered the nuance, and it is about that, isn't it? It's about a little word here, it's about the way you look there, about what you wear, how you put it over, and of course ultimately the voice has to be spot on.
It's everything adds to the character and illusion that you're creating. Elvis had a way of pronouncing certain words, and you need to emulate that. Elvis, I find that with my tribute to Elvis when I'm performing him as the stage performer, it's all of the smallest details that speak the loudest. And that's just the way you would, again, like you said, push your lips, the way that you would look up above your brow, the way you would hold your fingers, the way that you would stand, the way you would, it's something that he did. And it's all this little minute details that make the performance so big, and to make sure that it doesn't become a caricature of the man, because the man was never a caricature of himself. Mm-hmm. So it's to make sure that you focus in on that and never become a caricature. And again, that's what This Is Elvis is. It's such a beautiful salute to the man on stage as well as off stage, and never for a moment is it a caricature of the man himself. It's real.
I wonder how many thousands of hours you've spent watching him, because that must be the only way you can master this.
It is. I watch and listen to him. If I'm not watching him, I'm listening to him daily as I prepare to get ready for the evening events. I have studied and watched. My mother, the closest thing that I have based on Elvis's life is a very close relationship with my mother as well. And my mother has been my biggest supporter and my harshest critic, because she too is an Elvis fan. And she would look at me and say, I think you got to get back and watch that, just focus in on this. And the biggest thing she ever told me was, as soon as you think you have it is the day you leave the business, because you'll never have it, because Elvis was just this being. And she says, you'll get close. And she goes, and that's what you always want to strive for. And I think that's the thing, is just keep striving to be the best that I can be in recreating everything a fan wants to see. And that is a reincarnation of Elvis the way they remember him. And when I'm on stage, I relive and try to be the man. But when I'm off stage, I am myself.
Right.
Both don't, one doesn't cross the other.
You've mastered it so brilliantly. This is Elvis is touring the UK, and you can see Steve Michaels doing this. I wonder what your life is like as you, because you do look like him, and of course you've got the hair and all that stuff. Is your life as sexy in real life as Elvis's was? I wonder, Steve.
I would love to say yes, but I would be telling a little bit of a white lie. I have to say that with the black hair and, of course, the sideburns and bearing a resemblance, that there are Elvis sightings that do happen. I know that when I'm standing in a crowd, or if I'm on the tube, that when somebody looks over at me and they kind of do a double take, I think to myself, there was an Elvis sighting that just happened. It's a hazard of the job, with these when you have black hair and sideburns, but it's something that I take in stride and enjoy. So.
Well, congratulations on everything. I can't wait to come and see the show. You're touring the UK. I'll see you in Wimbledon in a couple of weeks' time. You're in Blackpool until tomorrow, then Edinburgh next week, Dartford, beautiful big theatres. You're doing Aylesbury's huge as well, Weston-super-Mare from the 5th to the 10th of March, New Wimbledon when I'll see you 12th to the 17th of March, then in Birmingham, of course, Regents in Stoke-on-Trent, Cardiff, Liverpool, Woking, Leeds Grand, Sunderland through June, Brighton, Bristol and Torquay ending the tour on the 4th of August. It's been a real joy talking to you. Let's talk again in person, and congratulations on mastering this art of Elvis. You really pay tribute to him, which is the greatest compliment, I think, for a show like this. Thank you for your time, Steve.
Oh, thank you very much.